South Africa has closed a historic chapter as President Cyril Ramaphosa brought down the symbolic gavel on the first G20 summit ever held on African soil. A summit marked by bold decisions, global disagreements, and an unmistakable message that shared goals can outweigh even the sharpest political differences. From the opening moments, this G20 gathering broke with tradition. World leaders issued their official declaration on the very first day, an almost unprecedented move, and they did it despite strong opposition from the United States. Washington criticized South Africa's agenda for the summit, which focused heavily on climate change and global wealth inequality. But Ramaphosa stood firm, pushing forward a message he said the world urgently needed to hear. In his closing remarks, Ramaphosa described the declaration as a renewed commitment to multilateral cooperation. He said the summit came at a crucial moment, when global calls for peace, fairness, and decisive action are louder than ever. He reiterated that nations must recognize their interconnectedness and work toward ending wars and conflicts around the world, while also confronting the deep inequalities that continue to separate rich and poor nations. Ending poverty in all its forms, reducing inequality within and among countries, and taking urgent action to combat climate change, these, he said, are not optional goals, but global imperatives. Ramaphosa emphasized that the declaration proved something important, that the shared goals of the G20 nations outweighed the differences that often divide them. He then formally closed the summit, announcing that the G20 presidency would next move to the United States, where leaders are expected to meet again next year. But the usual ceremonial handover, the passing of the wooden gavel from one president to the next, did not take place, and the reason is stunning. The United States boycotted the summit entirely. Washington refused to send President Donald Trump, instead planning to send only an embassy official. Pretoria called that decision an insult to President Ramaphosa and to the significance of the first G20 ever hosted in Africa. As a result, South Africa canceled the handover ceremony, and the gavel stayed right where it was. The boycott itself was driven by a widely discredited claim made by Trump that South Africa is violently persecuting its white Afrikaner minority. This allegation, rejected by international observers, became the basis for the U.S. refusal to attend. South Africa chose not to escalate the dispute, but it did stand its ground by refusing to carry out the traditional handover under those circumstances. Still, the United States is set to take over the G20 presidency in 2026, and in a surprising twist, the American summit is expected to be held at Donald Trump's own golf club in Doral, Florida, a decision already sparking debate across the international community. Despite the tension, Ramaphosa remained focused on the broader global mission. He said the world is facing defining challenges: rising inequality, deepening poverty, repeated climate disasters, and ongoing wars. And yet, he insisted, this year's summit proved that cooperation is still possible and that nations can unite around shared objectives even when political disagreements run deep. This G20 summit was more than a diplomatic event. It was a statement, a declaration that Africa is stepping forward as a global leader and that the world must confront its crises with courage, unity, and action. It showed how fragile global politics can be, but it also revealed that when nations choose cooperation over conflict, progress is still within reach. And as the summit closed, the message was unmistakable. The world is watching, the stakes are rising, and the decisions made today will shape the future for generations to come.